Okay, so here we have the path for Chiasm 2018. Now, a bit like Freedom Dive, this one, although the notes are pretty complicated, the path itself is, once again, one of the easiest in the whole tournament. There's only 3 activations, and all of them are pretty easy, to be honest with you. So, activation number 1, we get 2 phrases, and our third phrase is a very long whammy. Now, ideally you'll be getting full bar from these 3 phrases. This sustain is really long, and it's hard to get whammy that bad that you don't get full bar after this sustain. So yeah, should be on full star power. Now, before we actually get to the activation, I will say a reason why you'd probably want to turn tilt off for this song, and that is measure 21. And this thing, unless you one-hand it, which I don't know, some people might if they're trying to flex or something, but you're probably going to tap this. And for me at least, the neck can move around quite a lot, and it can inadvertently act here, and this will ruin the score for the entire song, because you'll be using full bar on this really slow, just easy part, and probably won't even overlap here. You might, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You probably wouldn't. So yeah, turning tilt off here, make sure that you don't activate here. None of the 3 acts in this song are tilt acts, so you're not giving yourself a disadvantage anywhere else either. It would just be a case of remembering to turn it back on afterwards if the next song has tilt. But yeah, turning tilt off is what I did for this song. The first activation itself, it says to squeeze in the yellow, but I don't think anyone really bothered with that unless they were really gunning for optimal. But yeah, just activate on the blue. Measure 28. It's a down strum. It's an easy activation. I mean, it's slow alt strumming, but it's not really a problem. And just activate on the blue. All that means really is that you're going to be squeezing in this orange note rather than this yellow note. So at the end of the day, it doesn't even lose you any points if you squeeze good enough. In fact, I think this note will be easier to squeeze than this one. So yeah, and you might even get ticks. But anyway, yeah, you get this overlap. The overlap is free, obviously, because we're on full bar, and it's the second measure of the activation. And that's the activation itself. Obviously, the notes underneath are interesting, but that's not what this part is about. So yeah, first activation is simple. Next activation, we have this phrase, and then we have a whammy phrase. And then immediately after the whammy phrase, we have this activation here. Now, I know I've pretty much every single time we've had an activation straight after a whammy, I've tilted, but in this case, I just stopped whamming a little bit early and then just activated on the note. So just losing ticks rather than hundreds of points. We're just losing a few, like however many ticks, I don't know how many. And this activation really, it doesn't mean much. Look at our score, we get 210 and then we leave with 220. So it's a 5,000 point activation. This is probably the least valuable activation in any of the songs in the tournament. Optimal activation, I mean. So yeah, this one really didn't matter at all, but it's obviously worth following the optimal path. But yeah, sort of a laughable activation in the face of such a ridiculous song. But yeah, this is optimal. So yeah, activating there. The final activation, whammy phrase, whammy phrase, whammy phrase, and then the activation point is pretty obvious. Measure 82, it's the measure before solo 2D, or I guess 2B it's called in this version. So yeah, we're just activating right here, and one-handing at this point so we can press the button. The way I do it is I'll be one-handing this whole part up until measure 83, so that's not even a fast teleport. Obvious activation point, and the overlap at the end isn't that tight, but you just need to remember it's there and whammy as much as you can. And yeah, we'd be overlapping that and ending around here, maybe obviously a little bit earlier with imperfect whammy. And yeah, that is Chiasm 393.9. The FC score I was getting in practice was 389, I think. Alright, I think I only have seen it once in practice for the tournament. But yeah, 389, and the highest score I actually ever got was 392, so this path isn't hard to execute, and it gets you pretty close to this score, 394k. So yeah, simple path, not so simple notes, so we'll move on over to that right now.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the notes for Chiasm 2018. So this one is pretty much the same as regular Chiasm. I think most people know how that one goes, and as a result they already know what the deal is with this song. But my methods are probably, well, they're definitely different from rock band methods, and also might be a little bit different to what people would normally do for like solo 2D, which is now 2B on this 2018 version. So yeah, we'll go through it. Banned by a lot of people, not surprisingly, because most of the song is really easy, and there's like, you know, probably like 20 seconds worth of hard stuff in the actual song. So yeah, and that hard stuff is like technically the hardest parts of the whole setlist and tournament, besides like Reclaimer's solo 4G or whatever it is. So yeah, the first part that is kind of like 1 second, kind of sucks. I'm gonna have to set a position. Like, you know, this part anyone can hit, and the majority of the song is as slow as this. Okay, so during the sustain we get prepared for this little tappy bit here. I'll slow it down, even though my method is, unsurprisingly enough, standard tapping. And it contains like micro ghosts, if you will. So you wouldn't be able to do this in Rock Band, but there's two important ghosts there, and the ghost notes are this yellow to orange is played as yellow, blue, orange, and then this red to orange is played as yellow, yed, orange. Yellow, yed. Yeah, that's right. Yellow, red, yellow, orange. Okay, so they're the important ghost notes. Besides that, it's kind of self-explanatory how you hit it. Just tap the orange notes. And then I would one-hand this last one in a weird way. I would one-hand it in a like 1-3-4 position. For some reason, my hand would just end up looking like that because my middle finger is on the yellow anyway. And it's not as bad of a stretch as you would think, to be honest. It sort of just naturally hits. And then you go into the strumming bit. Most likely part to miss is actually this orange to red there. Yeah, so just standard tapping. Kind of fast when it comes to full speed though, but we are playing Clone Hero, so at least we have leniency in that respect. So one more time for the measure. Yeah. So nothing really else to say there. It's self-explanatory, but it is hard. I can see that, and I've missed it in the finals like a bozo. But yeah, guitar solo 1. Now we'll do this bit by bit. So it starts off with these ladders. I would standard tap these first ones and then play the last ones as they actually are, as ladders. So tapping ladders, most people know how to do this by now. So I'd be tapping the blue-orange, one-handing the yellow-blue, and tapping the red-yellow. Basically as triangles, but it registers as... actually, these ones don't last very long, so it actually wouldn't be doing them as triangles. Now we're standard tapping this first half. So I'm tapping the blues and the reds when it goes to red trills. Right. There's a few little things in there. This is normal enough. There's a very quick triple tap I do here. Well, actually, it's actually a quad tap. Right, and yes, you did see that. That is what my method is for this little bit here. It's not really a method, but sometimes moves can be applied, and it makes sense. And then I would actually just do trips to this bit up until this yellow, and then go back into standard tapping. More pretty quick standard tapping there. And then yeah, just zigs here, no reason to get tired. So yeah, I'll go over that in a bit more depth than me just playing it. So these ladders are normal, this is fine. This is all fine. Just a relatively quick double tap in the middle of that. And then after this yellow tap, just mouse this part using these 4 buttons, no red obviously needed. And then doing zigs here because the transitioning out of mousing accurately, unsurprisingly, is kind of difficult. So yeah, just having this little buffer zone where we're probably not going to miss if we do zigs in this green, yellow, orange part. Up until we hit this yellow tap, because that's kind of an easier place to stop mousing, because we have a bit more time because there's no orange note in it. Mousing because it's just easier. Right, this is standard tapping. That part in particular is really awkward, right? I can change the section now. So, let's start, we're going from red to orange to blue to orange, all while changing anchors. This is one of probably the biggest miss point in Guitar Solo 1, to be honest, besides the mousing part. Maybe including the mousing part. But besides that, yeah, we're just standard tapping this part. So this part is like clean. But it's all in first position. So there's nothing special being done here. So red, orange, blue, orange, and these are just blues, right? And at this point, because it's kind of fast and it drains your stamina, it's hard for me. I could accurately standard tap this, but fine. But it's more of a stamina thing. So doing these zigs here, they automatically hit, you know. It's the most consistent way of doing the song. If I was going for a super clean FC, then sure, I would probably either make a method or I would suck it up and standard tap the whole thing. But as far as tournament is concerned, I don't want to be missing on this star power into the most valuable part of Solo 1, which is the triplets as well. So as far as consistency goes, this is the most consistent way to hit the section, unsurprisingly. So can you really blame me? No. I've got nothing to prove. But there is one little thing. So this is all regular ones, just red, yellow, blue zigs. When it comes to this ascending quad, we actually play the quad. So yeah, we're doing the red, yellow, blue zigs, and then this is with your fretting hand, you'll be doing the ascending quad, and then going into red, yellow, orange zigs. So there is kind of a method to the moose, if you will. Right, and as far as the triplets are concerned, a lot of people will probably just do them like that, or maybe not even anchor. And that's the rock band method, but we're not playing rock band. So what I do these, so not fully alt-tabbed trips in this fashion. So when we have a triplet that goes like it does here, orange, blue, yellow, red, we don't have to do fully alt tapping. We can tap orange, blue, and then do a zig at the bottom. So like this is exactly what we do for Dystopia, for instance. So we can apply that here. So we do that for the first one, and then what I do for the single triplets on their own, instead of like fretting a full triplet, because that puts us off balance, and we'd be fretting the top of the next one, if you get what I mean. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap the orange, blue like I would, and then do a zig again. So it's basically pretending that this single triplet is actually the same pattern but a bit faster, because it's not actually really any, it's not particularly, you know, fast, to be honest with you. And these taps at the top would probably turn into triangles at this speed, at top speed. It doesn't even look unclean either. It's just a couple of ghost blues in there. don't know why I'm getting confused, but yeah. And this hits more constant. It means that we don't have to do any position shifts or ridiculous stuff. And, you know, it's easy to remember. It hits more often than not. It really does. I says, I don't know why I'm missing the last ones. Trust me! Yeah, if we sort of do it in like one continuous rhythm, it's probably more consistent than trying to actually play it at the speed it is. See that? You can probably be fretting too fast, so if you just do it, and it hits. So the full thing now, and you'll see the whole thing in action. You see, this moosing bit is probably the worst part of the method. If I spent a bit more time, I'm sure I could have learned it properly, but I didn't have unlimited time. And there we go. Solo one, probably, I don't know, more than 50-50, probably about 75. See, I confused myself with the transition out of the moosing there. Which is the whole danger of this part. I say it's 75, probably 75 when I'm actually warmed up. No idea how that would miss. Bizarre misses. But anyway, yeah, let's not dwell too much more on that. So yeah, it's a not rock band method, but it's more consistent than the rock band method, obviously, because we're on clone here and we can ghost as much as we want and we can moose the entire thing if we really wanted to, but I don't think that would be that consistent, and it would also ruin your stamina, I think. But yeah, that's Guitar Solo 1. Now, there is a little thing, Melody 1 is kind of quick, the very end of it is. Now it's normal, except for one ghost note in it, which is the yellow to orange. So after this triplet here, it just goes from the blue into the orange, and that makes the whole thing a lot more natural. Right, and that's that there. There isn't too much to say there. No tapping involved. Just pretty quick one-handing. Okay, now here's where the money is. So Guitar Solo 2A is fine. I'm just including it just for the transition into Solo 2B. Right, so we're just going to include this bit. Slow it right down to 30%. This is one-handed, because A, there's an activation at the start of this, and it also makes the transition into it better. Right, this method, I think a lot of people figure this method out. You do a zig for the top 3, and then just tap the notes in between while anchoring green. So one hand into that, double one hand. So yeah, zig, double tap, zig, double tap, zig, double tap. Bit faster, but same method. Right, and when it gets to this part, this is the yellow wall, which I had the worst time with for like pretty much all of my life until I finally figured out a better method. Now this is obviously, it's not going to be a rock band method, it's not moosing, but it is very ghost heavy, so at this speed it's going to be unnatural. Hold on, let me do it up to speed so I actually know what I'm doing here. Right. Right, I remember now. So we do a double one hand to start off with it. And it's a double triplet one hand, just makes it. And it's hard to do the rhythm at this speed, but it goes like so the rhythm at the beginning is kind of like swing. And it's primarily a zig method, so double one hand, then two GRY zigs at the bottom, so double one-handed triplet at the beginning. Well, it's actually more of a quad because we're on green, but yeah. Double zig at the bottom, all tap zigs. And then it goes blue, orange, blue zig into the same, I guess, quad zig we were doing before. And then the zigs at the bottom again. So it's almost the same thing twice in a row, except the second time we don't do the double one hand, we tap the orange basically. But I do a triangle just because I'm tapping the zigs the whole time, it just makes it easier to remember it like that. So yeah, tap a zig there, then a double zig at the bottom. So that's the first half of the yellow wall. Right, and then it sort of changes direction. So in this case we're going to be tapping a yellow blue yellow zig and then doing the same motion. So every time we one hand the top half of the yellow wall, if you get what I mean, so either a blue or orange, we're going to be doing this whole quad zig motion. So yeah, yellow blue yellow triangle tapped, then that, and then the zigs at the bottom again, same zigs. So the only thing that's actually changing is the top. Okay, so the whole yellow wall. And that will hit every note before the blobs. It's so slow, right? I'm gonna have to change it to 40. It's even slow at 40. So it's not gonna hit at 40. that's the problem. The yellow wall is better up to speed. So it's very ghost heavy, but it works better than any other method I've had. Right, so that is good enough for the yellow wall. I'll do the whole thing at full speed later on. So the blob itself. Now there's a double one-hand transition into it, but as far as hitting the top half of it, so the zigs, we're going to do the same thing we did earlier where we're one-handing these zigs, but instead of doing double taps, we're going to be using 1-2, or I use 1-2 for both parts of it. But the first half of the blob first, so it's the same method, but instead of doing a full double tap, we're just using two fingers on the yellow. Okay, that's the first half of the blob. It's kind of like a rake tap if you would, so people will probably do like something like that. I can't rake tap, so I don't know how to do it, but it's that sort of motion, right? Where you almost slide your finger. Right, the second half of the blob, you're just sliding up. So to slide up, you'll be slid up at this point. Right, and then for this one, there's no double one-handing or anything, the transition is natural. You just do a descending, like you're playing a descending trip, orange-yellow, and then we do the same motion, but instead of just being on one fret this time, it's on orange-blue. So and I'm not lifting my fingers off like I'm at 30% speed. It'll be very like, so some people would slide these two notes or something like. So that's essentially what it is, but instead of just sliding, I'm actually using two different fingers. So yeah. That's how we break that down. Now I'm going to clear AB, I'm going to do the blob at 50. Actually, I'll do the whole thing at 50. You can see the whole thing. So yeah, this is pretty simple enough. It's the easiest part of the solo. The double one hand again, slide up, and the two methods for the blob, which is basically two of the same method to be fair. So 75 now. Missing for some reason, but the method was right. That's the thing, up to speed this stuff can just miss. Especially the blob. Because you're relying on you leaving a very short amount of time. Especially in the second blob, because yeah, you're leaving a short amount of time between tapping the orange and the blue. Yeah, and you see it just misses sometimes, but it does hit, even at 200 FPS. So I'll try and do it full speed now. And for some reason the transition to the yellow at the end sometimes got me, but all you're doing is just one-handing the yellow at the end. You see, that's the most likely point to miss, is the second blob. Well, there you go. Prove that it works. So this would not work on Rock Band. The blobs would work if you did them accurate enough, but the yellow wall is a no-go. But this is the best that I could come up with for Clone Hero, at least. I've seen this song enough times. You know, I might not be hitting it every single time in practice now, but I'm also, you know, talking. I haven't been playing for too long. But yeah, you get the gist of it. And that is, that's Chiasm. I think I've talked long enough about it. People knew Chiasm already, but this is at least a little bit of a twist on the normal method, I think. But yeah, we'll do a run of the song now. Okay, so that was Chiasm 2018, 392k. I'm pretty sure that's the best score I've got on that. So yeah, more based on note hitting than pathing, but still, path definitely mattered. So that's that. We're going to move on to the strum songs, and the next one is Cosmic Conqueror.